Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where I interview educators and entrepreneurs on leveling up. Each episode, I bring someone who's dope. I'm just so excited. I'm begin my intro, and we just sit back and have a conversation on what it means to live your best life. Now, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, this is the Mobile University for Entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Dr. Will. Today's guest came to me via a recommendation on YouTube. And I just started looking at her YouTube channel, checking out different interviews and other things she was going to, checked out our website. And I wanted to have her on because we are really, as you know, about educators creating that side hustle to create multiple streams of income. And then I don't know if she's ever thought about this, but her last name is really apropos because it's Price. And that to
Yes.
me, that's dollars.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to have her on. So today's guest is Precious Price, uh, entrepreneur over and over and over again,
Mhm.
branding, Airbnb, speaker, she's podcaster, YouTuber, she's doing it all. And we're going to be talking about when you are that educator and you're thinking about how do I make that leap? How do I take that step in becoming an entrepreneur and selling what I have learned as an educator? We're going to get in that today. So, for those who be listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, and Spotify, and Audible, people, I told you we doing it. Will you please introduce yourself, Precious?
Of course. Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Like I welcome the audience to the life of me. I am Precious. Like you've already stated, I am an entrepreneur, speaker, and digital marketing consultant out here in Atlanta, Georgia. I relocated here about 3 years ago after I completed my master's program out at Indiana University. Came here, started my career, and since then it has been rolling and rolling very, very fast. So I attended Indiana University, and there I received two business degrees. So I have a bachelor's in marketing and technology management via the business school, and I have a master's in information systems as well. So I utilize that. A lot of people don't think so, but I do utilize that in my day to day and everything that I have going on with my endeavors. As far as the businesses related to branding, Airbnb, I am what is called, I guess you can say, like a brand strategist or brand authority coach for my own sort of brand firm, which is the Brand Table. And it is a online community where you can come and pretty much get the resources, content, and contacts to begin building your personal brand. And aside from that, I am also the creator of Airbnb Money. So hashtag Airbnb Money, the Airbnb Money platform. That is pretty much a platform that teaches other people how can they get started within the Airbnb game. And then even furthermore, just a platform where I share my journey through it of how I went from Airbnb in my one bedroom, one bathroom personal apartment to then building a tiny house to list on Airbnb. And I currently have two other units located in South Atlanta as well. So that is a lot about me, and we will kind of dig into it. I won't give any numbers or anything just yet, but we'll be digging into everything.
She's doing it, people. I saw the numbers on the phone when she showed it. I was like, I want your life. I want your life. Uh, so I'm always curious as to how people got to where they are. What did you think you would be doing when you were growing up, and what attracted you to entrepreneurship?
Mm. So, what did I think I would be doing growing up? Not this in any regard, I have to say. What I thought I would be doing growing up, like I knew I wanted to work for myself. That's what I've always known. I've always had a pretty good business mindset, and I do have to say that is because of my mother. So, to answer your second question, she is really that person who kind of attracted or helped to attract me to entrepreneurship. I've never seen my mother work for someone else. For as long as I can remember, she has been working for herself in some capacity. And most people would classify her as a hustler. She knows how to get money and make money in a bunch of different ways, a plethora of ways. And she kind of instilled that within all of us as well. So I say us because I am the oldest of five. There's a 7-year gap between me and my 4 other siblings and that is because my mother had me when she was fairly young as well. So, which makes me honestly really proud to say that she was able to instill, I guess, that entrepreneurial mindset and even furthermore that financial literacy within me, because she birthed me when she was 15. So she was still just a child herself. So at that point, for the most part, I grew up with my parents, and growing up, just watching her transformation and her growth within the entrepreneurial world definitely motivated me, not only to get into it, but then even furthermore to really scale. Because I think there is a difference in what it means to be like an entrepreneur, I guess, in our community versus what it means to be an entrepreneur like at scale. And typically I feel like sometimes in our community, it's really just like, okay, well, I got a small business and I might have an Instagram, a Facebook page, possibly a website, and I just make money. But there's not a real structure to it. It's not legacy building. And for me, I knew that the difference with me, I wanted to build a legacy. This isn't just something that I want to enjoy. I want my children and my children's children to be able to enjoy the work, the fruits from the work that I put in now.
No doubt. And I'm glad you brought up scale because about a year ago, I was watching this interview on one of the summits from Black Enterprise, and Earl
Mm-hmm.
Gray's son Butch was talking about how, there's a bunch of Black folk who got like these businesses, but they're not scalable businesses
Exactly.
because they're not looking at the bigger picture to say, okay, I have a landscaping business, you have a landscaping business. Well, let us partner up to where
Mm-hmm.
now we have a bigger business to where if someone is building a mall or building an airport, we have the capacity to take on those jobs.
Yeah.
And with that, you're talking about, I mean, those are big jobs with big dollar points coming in. So it's not, okay, I'm going to do these smaller homes or what have you, which you might make $150,000 a year, but
Yeah.
by scaling, now you're talking about you could be making $5 million a year when you have
Mm-hmm.
that type of business mindset. And so I'm glad you brought that up because when I think about that, that's life changing money. I mean, that's generational
Absolutely.
money. That's not I'm going to hand down this job that this I call myself an entrepreneur, but it's
Yeah.
really a job, right? Because if I
It's a
don't
job.
because if I don't show up, I don't get paid, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
you can't pass that down.
And
Uh,
that's typically what we found ourselves passing down in our communities as well. Like I do find that of people, especially within our community, of like, okay, well, I'm going to go work for, my father's business. And it's more of like a small mom and pop-ish rather than actually like when I was in college, for instance, and even just being amongst my peers. I went to a predominantly white institution, being amongst them. And, in business school, you're getting internships and all of that during the summers. And they're able to just say, well, yeah, if nothing else falls through, I'm just going to go intern at my dad's company. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
no
That
doubt.
was the wake up call for me.
So we're in an era now. You can't get on Instagram. You can't get on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube without someone talking about entrepreneurship and how you need to create a business or how, you know, I can help you create a 7-figure business. I'm kind of a little leery about that when people pop off like that. I'm like, okay, now I don't know your receipts. I don't know what your bank account looking like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
When someone is thinking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do they know? Because I
Mm-hmm.
know from doing what I do just as a consultant on the side, um, I know this ain't for everybody,
Oh, absolutely not.
right? And some people make it sound sexy, but it ain't.
It's not.
Uh, how do they know they're ready? And what sort of conversations should they be having with themselves?
Mm-hmm. So, as far as preparedness and readiness to, I guess, step into entrepreneurship, or even furthermore, just step into your own business, because that could mean that you're also doing it on the side. I think that it takes a matter. It's two pieces, right? It's a matter of will and it's a matter of skill. Skill is a smaller portion, yet we put so much, I guess, emphasis on it, because a lot of what you do within entrepreneurship, for the most part, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like plumbing or a trade. You learn on the job. Like you learn on the job. But we focus so much on the skill, and that creates an analysis paralysis within us, right? Of like looking at it like, okay, well, I don't have the degree and I don't have the credibility. So then we like psych ourselves out. Or we focus so much on trying to acquire, well, let me get this degree, or let me get this first before I started, and let me go do this and look up all of this extra stuff. And then it creates like a pause in what we're doing. So that's one piece of it, right? And like I said, it is a smaller piece. And for me, I would say like the skill piece, like what you need, the skill you need to bring into it, looking at the proportion between will and skill, I would say like the skill is 30% of it, 70% of it is your will. And what I mean by will, right, is like, what are you willing yourself to do? It's really your mindset, because that's the differentiating factor between me and, you know, somebody who is wanting to just simply work a corporate job. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's more of a matter of will, right? Like both take a really strong mindset. However, being an entrepreneur, it's like there's no money coming in the door if I do not work. Which that gets into a different conversation of actually automating your business. However, nonetheless, it's like, again, that will piece. So when you know, okay, am I ready? Do you have a strong mindset, right? Like if the moment that you encounter a failure, you say, okay, this isn't for me, I need to switch it up, or, you know, like maybe I'm not doing it right, then maybe you are not yet ready, because there are going to be a lot of failures that you take. There are going to be a lot of mistakes that you make, all of that. But if at the first sign of those things, at the first sign of any risk, a mistake, a failure, you then kind of recluse, you need to work on that will piece, because that will piece is what's going to actually get you through entrepreneurship. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, I mean, it does. And this is where now I think about when I went on your YouTube channel and I watched the webinar you did on becoming an infopreneur, which for me falls in line with what I define as an edupreneur, in terms of you as an educator taking your knowledge that you have as an educator and either consulting for a school district, writing curriculum, selling lesson plans, writing a book, offering a course, those type of things. When an educator is thinking about this, how do they actually break down what they're doing in their classroom? Because there's, you know, a lot of times people can point out to you what you do well that you don't see, right? They're blindness because you just wake up and do it every day.
Exactly.
So you're not even thinking about it. So when an educator is thinking about, hey, I want to do this, how do they look at their classroom experiences, what they're doing well, what they're getting on their evaluations, or what they are passionate about doing, and then turn around and turn that into a business idea?
I think it's really a matter of finding that sweet spot, because immediately we typically always go to like, okay, what do I do well? But it's not only what do you do well, but what do you enjoy doing? Like if you woke up, would you do that for free still? Because that means that you are going to put your all into it. And then even furthermore, when you get into entrepreneurship and you have those days, weeks, maybe months where you're not making anything from it yet, you will still keep going. So that is number one, is like figure out what are you good at, but then also what do you enjoy doing? That is the overlap. Even furthermore, I always tell people, because this is how I help my own clients identify the value of their own brand. So that's really what I do as like a brand strategist and brand authority coach. I help you to identify that value that unique value that you have. What expertise can you monetize in your head, and then put it out there to your audience? So I tell them, even my clients, ask like 5 people that are close to you, whether it's a family member, friend, or what have you, 5 to 10 of those people. What are 3 words would you use to describe me? What would you say that I'm good at, right? Like when you talk to other people, what would you recommend me for? And I've done the exercise myself, actually. And doing that will allow you to then create a couple of buckets of, okay, this is at least the landscape that I'm working with right now. If people already know me for this, I already have an audience, people already come to me for this. So I know somebody's going to pay for it, right? Because they already view me as an expert within this field if they're recommending me to other people. So number one, like I said, figure that out. So figure out what you're good at, figure out what you also like, but then even furthermore, simply just ask people that are close to you. You only see or know yourself from your own perspective. And that is not the perspective that the buyers take. It's not your perspective. Business isn't even about you. It's about them. So you got to look at it from an external perspective.
And let's say they get that, once they get that information, and let's just say, for example, it could be blended learning.
Mhm.
When they understand that, how do they then determine what that business idea is going to be? Like I mentioned earlier, they could offer courses directly to
Mhm.
teachers, offer courses to school districts. They could write a book, self-publish. Um,
Mhm.
so many things that they could do in terms of turning that knowledge base, that skill set into a business. How do they figure out what type of business or what they're going to sell? How do they figure that out?
Figure out what they're going to sell.
Well, if they
That,
have, if they like they figured out that like you said, the branding is for you,
mhm.
but and what I do with my consulting is teaching educators how to teach online. But
Mhm.
again, that can be done anyway. Now
Yeah.
currently I do webinars and I
Mhm.
do face to face training. But I could have
Mhm.
easily said I'm going to offer a course. I could
Exactly.
easily said I'm going to write a book. How does someone figure out
Mhm.
which lane they're going to occupy?
I think it's all about idea. So what we're speaking about right now, like, or what I call it or classify it as, is like your mode of delivery for
Hmm.
how you are delivering the value for your brand. And that is a matter of you, like you said, there are a plethora of ways to do it. You can have a course, you can do YouTube, you can just release content. I think the most important piece, it's less about exactly what you do and how you pinpoint that, and more about which one can you be consistent with, because consistency is really the differentiator. So even for you, with you educating people and having this show, right? You said you've had it for 7 years now. That's something that you've been able to be consistent with, and consistently you are delivering the value of your brand through the podcast. So just finding that one thing, I always tell people, find that one thing first, because it's so easy for you to immediately come out of the gate and say, I'm going to do webinars, I'm going to offer a course, and I'm going to have a mentorship program, and I'm going to do a podcast on it too. And now you're overwhelming yourself. And especially as a new entrepreneur, you likely already don't have a lot of time as it is. So you need to figure out, okay, what is the mode that I'm kind of already working toward. So for me, content is really big for me. Like, content is very easy for me to just go live, go on a video, go on a podcast, and talk about a topic. So for the most part, a lot of that is how I deliver the value on my brand, is through my content. And that is because I found that I was already documenting a lot anyway. And content can be easily created when you're already documenting, you're already writing. Like, I take notes all of the time. I have a bunch of journals. So to me, I have never ending content. That is never ending content on branding, on life, on motivation. So figure out what you're already doing, because my mode of delivery then became content, because I said, you know what, this is the easiest like mode to delivery, like the easiest go to market strategy. And that's what you're looking at, right? Like, what is easiest for you to go to market? Because most people try to hop into something that they have to learn. So for instance, with a course, it's like, you don't know anything about delivering a course. Like, most, like, you don't know anything about delivering a course, but it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get in this, and this is how I'm going to deliver the value on my brand. And now it's less about the actual value of the brand, and now you're focused more on learning how to design a course, like
Mm.
that type of framework. You're not focusing on the actual value. And I think that's the piece that you really need to make sure that you're sticking to, is actually, literally, it always loops back around to the value. So like I said, like, my value for me, it's very easy for me to quickly give value via content, because I already write it out. I already do it for me. So I'm just literally copy and pasting it, and giving it out to people.
So, as the founder and CEO of the Brand Table, take me back to when you were developing your business. I've watched your videos, and even when we spoke earlier about a video, a podcast you were on, and you were speaking about how everyone should have a brand,
Mm-hmm.
and how you have navigated your brand and built it and cultivated it over the years and continue to work on it. How did you figure out that branding was what you were going to be focusing your business on?
Mm. It got to a point where there were a lot of people asking me about branding. So like I said initially, I knew that I wanted to go into business, and to just give you kind of that backstory of how I got into the branding space in the first place. So during my freshman year of college in the business school, we were required to take a personal branding course. And for me, that was the game changer. I started to realize, like, okay, I can really create an image for myself, right? I can cultivate an image in other people's minds of how I want them to view me. So when I started that was then when I took that course. And then even furthermore, I started to really dive into the topic of personal branding and applying what I was learning. So I started to get out there on social media and just literally, I was just being myself. I wasn't even talking about branding at the time. I was just talking about being me, about my experience, and just sharing my story. And I think that's the piece as well that a lot of people don't understand about their brand, is that it's not something that you're just like, oh my God, what is my brand? Share your story. Like, when you really understand your own story and your background, it's very easy to identify your brand. So that's how it started. And then from there, I was just like going through the process of, again, applying to internships, trying to get internships, because again, like, I'm a first generation everything for the most part. So I couldn't necessarily call up my mom and like, okay, you got an internship for me? No, I couldn't necessarily do that. So I then had to like actually go out, put myself out there. And when I started putting myself out there, people found and they saw that I was doing it really well. Like, my peers started to see, like, wait, she's actually getting internships. She's actually getting jobs. She does this, she's talking about it, right? Like, it became a part of my identity. And then at that point, other people, it got to a point where they saw my results, and then they started wanting the same thing for themselves. So then they came to me asking for it. And of course, it's like over the first few times, like, yeah, okay, I do it well, right? Because that's how it typically goes when you do something well and your friends start to pick it up. It's like, okay, you do it for free, and then you realize how much work it actually is, and you want to start charging. And that's what happened for me. So I started doing it, and then I'm like, okay, traffic is really picking up. And then on top of that, from the work that I'm doing, the value that I'm providing you all are receiving internships that are paying you $30+ an hour, jobs that are paying you, nearly six figures from the work that I'm doing. So at that point, that's when I said, you know what, I have something here. Like, I actually have value that I'm giving to people, and it's proven. It's not just something that I've done for myself. It's something that, hey, it's working for other people too. So I would say that's how it started, and just like the initial development of me getting into the branding space. And then when I like officially developed my business. So when I say officially, I mean like I'm official with the government. I got the LLC and all of that. That actually didn't occur until just 3 years ago. And so just 3 years ago is when I officially did it. But I had been operating kind of, I guess, as a business, like we were speaking about at the beginning, right? Like, pay me via Cash App. Yeah, I got it. Like, no website, no nothing, just kind of just doing things. So I was doing that, and then I made everything official about 3 years ago. And when I think back to that process, and when I think back to even like the will that I had to, I guess, bestow on myself to actually say, okay, I'm going to make this official, and this isn't just a side hustle anymore. This is something that I really want to do. When I did that, it was very, very scary. I would say there was a lot of what I told you all not to do already, which is analysis paralysis. It was a lot of me asking other people around me who honestly, they weren't even credible enough to give me the answer in the first place. But I'm just asking them a question like, you think I should do it? Yeah, you should do it. Okay. And they're telling me what I already know. It's pretty much like me just wanting to hear someone else say what's already in my head so I can feel a little better. And that's what that process then looked like. The work that I'm doing now, like, what does the brand table look like after the development, right? Like, after I've officially created it, now the work that I'm doing now, it is primarily teaching and coaching. So like what you said, I refer to it as an infopreneur, but you refer to it as an edupreneur, and that is exactly what it is. So I educate people around the topics that I'm already well versed on. Initially, it started out as just branding. And then as I literally, again, because this is my story, my background, I didn't plan on teaching people Airbnb too. I didn't plan on like doing overall business coaching. It became that because of the success that I had in those areas, people seeing that and them clinging to it. So a lot of the work that I do specifically with the brand table is helping executives, young professionals, and executives to pretty much identify, like I said, that value of their brand, position themselves as an authority in their industry so that they can create inbound opportunity for themselves. What do I mean by inbound opportunity? Inbound opportunity is like speaking engagements, right? If you're saying that, I want to speak on topics related to whatever, subject that you're teaching or what have you, that is what we do, and we work together to create. And we specifically do that via social media platforms and primarily LinkedIn, because I tell people, like, the digital real estate that you have, the internet real estate, your internet real estate is really important, because these days you meet someone and they're immediately Googling your name to figure out more about you. Like, we feel like we can tap in and access everybody's lives at literally the click of a button. So that is pretty much like most of the work that I'm doing with the brand table. A lot of it is the content. I do have the podcast as well. And yeah, like I love it. It's the coaching calls. And then I also have an 8-week coaching program as well. So that is like my course, right? That's my 8-week coaching program, where I pretty much take them through the entire process of developing their brand. Even furthermore, developing and delivering on the value of their brand.
Well, I subscribe to the podcast, so I've been listening. In your webinar you did on infopreneurship, you talked about how you may be selling that course or something based upon your knowledge, but in terms of your brand, it's about you, right? People are buying you, they're not buying X, Y, and Z. And when people are thinking about their brand, because it was interesting, because Steve Jobs was one of those cats who, even though he's selling products, his brand was out there in front of the company.
Exactly.
And people were like, yo, this weird cat in the little sweater thingy, turtleneck.
The little turtleneck sweater
is out here doing it. What do people get wrong about personal branding? Because I know sometimes people, they hear it and then immediately it's like colors, it's like logo, right? It's this marketing stuff, but the inner work, the inner stuff, as you say, sharing your story, they jump past that, or they don't dig deep enough into that. What do people, in terms of the misnomers, or when people hear brand, what are they not getting? What's not clicking for them?
Number one is that the brand is a lot more than, like you've already stated, right? The logos and the colors and, like the pretty pictures. Your brand is really like the core of, like I said, the value that you are delivering. Now, because many people know what marketing is, so I'll do it in relation to marketing. Branding is the core value. Marketing is really how you show them, okay, this is the value that I have. So you got to figure out the value first. Like, some people come to me and they're wanting me to, I guess, help market their business. And it's like, well, you don't even have a brand. Like, you're kind of just out here doing things and it's not working because you don't have a brand. So really, as far as like the things that they get wrong, number one, those colors and all of that. Number two, believing that they should not integrate their identity or like who they are and their background and their story into their brand. I don't care what business you have, people are buying from it because of who you are, right? And how you are engaging with them. That is your brand, right? And depending on how you engage with them, you got to think about it, right? Like, when you have a bad interaction with whatever company, you're not buying from them anymore. But when you have a good interaction, it makes you continue to come back. So that's the piece that a lot of folks don't understand as well, is like, I feel like there was this at some point, I don't know who spread this, like this rumor or this, I don't know, this fundamental, but they're like, well, you shouldn't attach a face to your brand. You shouldn't attach a face to your business, right? I don't know where that came from. Now, for some businesses, depending on your actual end goal, right? Sure, you don't have to do it. But for many, and especially those who are teaching, who are educating, who are service providers, and what you are providing is the knowledge that you have, people are buying into you. people are buying into you. So that's what you have to understand. More just challenges, like more things that people get wrong in relation to their brand. Again, I think I've already said it or alluded to it, but thinking that it is about you, right? Like your brand is about you, but your business is not about you, if that makes sense. Like your brand is yours. Your brand is yours, but your brand is yours in relation to the value that you can provide to other people. What can other people learn from you? A lot of people, I feel like they get into business and it's selfish, right? It's like, well, I want financial freedom and I want, my own time and I want this and I want that. And it's like, well, what are you giving? Like, what are you actually giving? Because businesses solve problems. Businesses solve problems. And I feel like sometimes we go in solution first, and then like you're trying to make a problem out of a problem that isn't there because you selfishly created the business rather than saying, you know what, I've identified a piece of information that people are not tapping into. I've identified a problem that people might not even know they have yet, right? But that is the piece, right? Like, so those would be like the three heavy hitters. And honestly, the heaviest of them all is thinking that it is about you. Like, yes, your brand is your story, but you need to think of it in terms of, or in relation to, how does it relate to other people? What can people learn from this? And then even furthermore, who specifically can learn from this? That is another piece that people get wrong with branding, but especially with marketing, of thinking that, okay, well, because my service is for people who are like going to college, right? Or like parents who have kids that may attend college. Well, every parent has kids. Well, every parent has kids, thinking that everybody is your audience. When, even though, like, for instance, I always give this analogy, everyone uses toilet paper, yet you have all of these different brands of toilet paper. You got Charmin, right? Like the quicker picker upper. It's real soft. You know it. That's the one you want in your house. And you got Scott. You got the paper towel, not the paper towel. You got the toilet paper that be in the airport. That's super thin, right? Like, but they each, like, they're all succeeding. They're all succeeding because they know their audience, right? Like Charmin isn't going to try and go market to airports because airports and larger businesses are worried about their pipes being clogged and things like that. And Charmin's too thick for that. It works better for the household. So that's the piece that you really have to understand as well.
That's all right. That's all right. Now, earlier you mentioned the Cash App payment. So there are people out there, they're doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they got some PayPal going on. You
They
mentioned
do.
the Cash App, Venmo,
Yes.
and I don't know what corporate structures they have. Like my person who, the graphic designer I work with that does my logos, was referred to me from someone because I saw their podcast stuff and I said, "Yo, that's dope. Who does it?" I don't know their situation, but what I do know for me was when I got my stuff together. I remember going to my accountant because I kept getting just like done up on doing tax season, and then she was like, she was like, "Oh, we got you now this year. We good."
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about those business fundamentals, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kind of structures people can have, right? Some
Yeah.
states will allow you to be classified as a solopreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as for me, you're getting that 1099, you're golden. But
Mm-hmm.
then you got the LLC, which we know can provide you personal protection with your funds.
Mm-hmm.
And then the S Corp. When people are looking at those things and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what is going to work best for them, what is the
Mm-hmm.
process they should be taking or undertaking so that they pick the right one for them, so that, again, when it comes to that money,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to make sure all that stuff is right, and then the EIN and all that stuff. How do
Yeah.
they fit in order to make sure that it's done on the right end, so that come tax season,
You good to go.
you're
Mm-hmm.
good to go? Yes.
Mm-hmm. So number one, as far as the steps that you're taking before that, number one, you need to research, like do your own research, number one. And number two, you need to talk to a actual professional. I see people, they be in Facebook groups asking questions that is like, you should really ask somebody who knows about this stuff, not Facebook. So that's number one. But then number two, like it would be specifically with the structures, right? Because I do have to say, like mine are filed as an LLC, and I can't say that I'm as well versed on like all of the other ways that you can structure it and the benefits of that. Like I've heard about them, but I wouldn't speak on them too highly, right? Or too greatly, because that's just not my area of expertise. Now, when you're looking at that process of actually properly getting started so that you are recognized by the government, you are an actual business and you are not just a ghost business, just here doing business via Cash App. Well, obviously, number one, you want to set up your business structure. You want to register your business with the state. This can be done on the Secretary of State's website for your state specifically. So just Google that Secretary of State. You can create and register a new business there. Once you do that, you'll wait on that confirmation. And from there, you then want to go and you want to retrieve your EIN. This is your employer identification number. It's pretty much your tax ID. You can think of it like your social security number, but for your business. It's very important. You should not lose it. You should definitely write it down when you get it. But you can go and you can do this yourself. Everything that I'm saying, you can go and you can do yourself. Some people hire folks. It's different strokes for different folks, whatever you want to do. However, I do know that sometimes people kind of get, I don't know the word, duped, because it's like you're hiring somebody to go and grab or retrieve your EIN, and it's completely free and it takes 2 minutes for you to do. So in order to get your EIN, literally just Google, get EIN number. Make sure that you're going to the proper websites. Typically, it is a .gov, because there are other sites that will try to trick you. So do that, number one. And then even furthermore, I always go, I tell people to go the step even further, right? Of not just getting your LLC, not just getting your EIN. Go ahead and get your Dun and Bradstreet number as well. So your DUNS number. Go and do that again, free. Google it, get DUNS number. You can retrieve it once your LLC is actually registered or your business is actually registered for your state. From there, when you are getting your DUNS, that then helps with actually establishing business credit, which I feel like is the real key differentiator between these people who are, okay, I'm doing business on Cash App, or like, I'm really doing business because my business has access to funding to get things done. So that is why the DUNS number is important. So you want to go ahead and get your DUNS number as well. And then once you retrieve your DUNS number, from there, it is a matter of establishing trade lines. It does not matter what industry you're in for business, what you are doing, what you can establish trade lines for your business. What trade lines are for your business, trade lines for your business are pretty much just a line of credit for a particular vendor. So that line of credit being, it's not a credit card that you're going to get. It's pretty much via their website. Your business is attached to your account, and they give you a certain amount of funds dependent on your business, how new it is and what have you. They're going to give you a certain amount of funds to work with to purchase things via their website or on their website. Then you can purchase them, you can buy them without actually paying that day. So that is what the trade line is, right? So they're going to set up something. Typically, they're called like their net accounts. It's either like a net 30, net 60. We know net means after. So after 30 days, you have to pay that back. After 60 days, you have to pay that back. You want to do that before that deadline. So before it actually hits that 30-day mark. And I think, like I said, that is the real key differentiator. And if you do those 4 things, the LLC, your EIN, your DUNS, and even furthermore, establishing trade lines, you will be good to go. From there, and then also trade lines, similar, just lines of credit, right? That could include a credit card as well. That's a different type of credit. It's more revolving credit, but nonetheless, you want to get access to, you want to have that in place so that you have access to funding when you need it. Even if you feel like you don't need it right now. Like I even tell my friends that if you don't even got to know what you want your LLC to be like. Initially, I LLC'd my name because I'm like, okay, I know I need a business. I'm just gonna LLC my name, and it's in the process of trademark too, just because precious price. But nonetheless, like I did that. So then at that point, I was able to actually begin establishing credit. But I say just do it, register a business, just no matter what, just do it now. Because even if you just have it and you just continuing to renew that registration, that is still showing that length of being in business, which is really important when you get to the point of opening up trade lines and as well as acquiring business credit cards.
All right, people. I should be charging y'all for this.
Absolutely. I charge for
Because
this.
this information right here, people. Because as a consultant, I have found it to where especially when I'm getting ready to sign a contract with a new vendor and you get that W-9, they're going to ask you for that EIN number and other things. Because I remember Tennessee State University, I was filling out their form to become a registered vendor for the university, and then all of a sudden they were asking me, do you have insurance? I didn't have insurance at the time, but I said yes. And then I called up Allstate and I was like, I need some business insurance for just in case. I'm thinking as a consultant, who gonna sue me? But I just made sure that I got it just in case.
Exactly. And even exactly. So even furthermore, that business insurance as well.
I was like, yeah, I had to get, I was like, oh my gosh, that was one of those things. I was like, okay. It just came out of nowhere for me. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, because everybody, the thing that everybody says, right, is get an LLC, get an LLC. That's all they say is get an LLC. So that's what people out here doing is just getting LLCs. Like when I mentioned to people who have had LLCs, EIN, they're like, wait, what's the EIN? The fact that you don't know is a problem, and you are calling yourself a business owner and even furthermore a CEO. These are pieces that you should know, right? These are pieces that, when you begin doing real research on what you're trying to hop into, what you're trying to do, you will discover the answers too. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this stuff you can figure out on your own if you have that time. If you just don't have that time and you don't want to, absolutely hire somebody. But you can figure this stuff out on your own.
No doubt. And you need an EIN number when you go to the bank and you try to open up a business account as well.
Exactly. And those steps, like how I gave it to you is pretty much the way that you would like to do it. Like LLC, EIN, get your duns. At that point, you can open up a business checking account, start establishing trade lines, pay the trade lines back with your business checking account or your business credit card, then pay it off with your business checking account. You're building your business credit.
Free game, people. Free game today. So I want to talk to you about your free content because you offer just such a rich reservoir of resources in your webinars, and they're free. People can go to your YouTube channel and they can watch all of those videos. What went into sort of that mindset, right? So like, how are you using that? Because now I got to do a better job of that. Now I'm consistent with the podcast, but I really need to be doing more tutorials on the learning management system that I do trainings with, as well as how do you create a digital classroom. I need to be doing more of that, but I'm lazy. I'm not gonna lie about that. But when you are sitting there, because again, it takes work, it takes consistency. It takes when you are not feeling inspired for you to just hop on a Zoom or a Camtasia, whatever platform, recording platform you're going to use to actually do those videos. How did you sort of, well, I mean, you did go to business school, but when you were thinking about, okay, I'm building my brand, I need to build the know, like, and trust factor with people, particularly if I'm trying to get clients who are going to, sign the checks over, I'm gonna get
pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, the big bucks, right? How, in terms of whether it be a content strategy or a schedule or a calendar or what have you, whatever you want to share, what goes into the thought process of actually creating that free content to where you are building that viability, those receipts, if you will, with potential customers?
Absolutely. I So the way that I think about it, because many people ask me, right, like, this is a lot of free content. Like, why are you giving all of this out for free? Like, package it, sell it. I give away the what and the how, the what and the why, the what it is and why you should do it and why you should be in it. That's what I just pretty much gave to you. The how is what I keep and what I sell. And for the most part, you're not gonna, like, you won't really notice that immediately. Like, initially it looks like it's a lot of content, right? And it's still really valuable content. But in order to really tap in and start doing it, you would need to talk to me. So I'm pretty much just giving you, like, okay, well, this is what it is, this is what I do with it. And this is why I do it. This is the importance of it. But when it then turns into a how, that is when it's turned into a paid webinar. It's a course. It might be a membership, something like that. So that is really like the piece that you have to remember. But for me, I knew that it's like, you have to understand that everybody's selfish. Everybody is very selfish. We are very self-centered. Number one. So we want to know immediately off bat when we meet people, it's like, okay, well, what can you do for me? Right? It's never about like, okay, what I can do for you. Like, very few people are operating initially from that mindset of what can I do for you? So other people are thinking, okay, what can you do for me? And me understanding that, I'm like, well, they're going to want to know this information. I don't charge to like just get on the phone. We can just get on the phone, but I know how to navigate that conversation to where I'm not telling you the how, I'm telling you the what and the why. So I think that's really like the major piece. As far as like the content strategy, what I do, I said at the beginning that I take a lot of notes. I write things down. I have journals. I write everything, like everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. I have a ton of whiteboards. Anywhere that I stay has to be a lot of whiteboards, has to be large windows for me to also use as a whiteboard with a dry erase marker. It has to be that. And the content or my strategy that I use is just throughout the day, right? Because you can't, like, when people try to sit and think about content, that is when it's hard. When it's like you're trying to force it. Like, in order for me to create really good content, I have to consume really good content. This is why I listen to certain podcasts. This is why I follow certain people and just certain people, right? This is why I read certain books and I understand the way that I am and how I do my content strategy. Whenever I'm ready to create some content of my own, I need to go and listen to some content. Like, I need to go and listen to something that's either about to help me shift my mindset or just at least get that ball rolling or my gears turning in my head related to that topic, so that I can then start recording or documenting my own content ideas that come into my mind. I then go into actually documenting that. From actually documenting it, like it doesn't matter, not documenting, excuse me. Yeah, documenting, writing it down. So it's literally just a brain dump. It doesn't have to be like, okay, I know I'm going to turn this into an article and I'm going to turn this into like a tweet. It's pretty much just me, literally a brain dump of like, this is what I thought about. Like, even when we were speaking earlier, you had said something to where that's why I have my notepad everywhere, right? You said something that it made me think, ooh, I'm going to go live on that topic later. Like, that is what I think about and that is what I do. So when those instances pop up, I either am writing in my notes, I have my journal, I utilize voice notes a ton, because you really need to get it out of your head, right? Like, immediately you need to get it out of your head when it pops in, because you even saying, okay, yeah, I'm gonna just remember that. No, you're not. Stop lying. No, you're not. It's not gonna happen. So you need to write it down. From writing it down, I then go into actually organizing that content. So there is I'll give you this, right? I'm giving some free game, right? This is the what, right? Content can be organized. You have your macro content and then you have your micro content. Macro content are things like what you're listening to right now, a podcast. It could be a white paper. It could be a extended long article, right? That is macro content. It is large scale content. It takes more time to create. And it then even furthermore takes more time to consume. Once you get into micro content can be created from macro content. And this is usually the strategy that I use. So I'll create macro content. So for instance, with me saying, okay, I thought about that and I'm going to go live on it later, a live video, any type of YouTube video or podcast, like I said, white paper, article, this is macro content. It's long form content. to where I do that. I can do a live video and then I strip the audio and I turn it into a podcast. And then from that audio, I then create different bits and pieces. I'll grab some quotes and turn it into a graphic so that I'm putting on Instagram. That's the process that I go through of creating content, because I find that I always already have the content created. I've already done it. And that's the good piece about like beginning to start and document your process, and even furthermore, your journey early on. Like I started really early. Like I may have a fairly, like to some people, it's still a small audience, but to me it's large now. But I may have, like, you may see that audience that I have now and think like, okay, I've been at this for years. I told you I started talking about branding my freshman year of college. That was 8 years ago. My God. And I've been doing it, and again, just finding what you can be consistent with, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really the piece. Like that is how content is created. You need to think about it in terms of macro to micro, because that is going to help you to then, I guess, more easily create content. When people try to like create the tweets first and then all of that, like, sure, you can go micro to macro if you want to, but that's more work. You got to create the tweet, and then you got to create the graphic post or the infographic, and then you got to go and you got to create the podcast episode, and then you might go and record a guest episode with somebody on YouTube and make it into a show and have a video. Whereas when you actually do it from the top down of, okay, I have a YouTube video like that, I'm talking about a particular topic. Strip the audio, I have a podcast now. Every time I go live, it's a podcast episode. Like a good chunk of my own episodes are from me going live. You'll hear me say, this is previous, or it'll be in the notes. This is from a live stream that I did. And that is how you do it. That's really like the easiest way that I can give people.
I hear you. But see, you just brought up audience, but I'm going to tell people, don't get caught up in your audience, because there are plenty of people on IG that their audience is huge, but if they were to try to sell a t-shirt tomorrow, they couldn't sell 5.
Exactly.
Right. So I don't care. I don't care about
it's
followers.
Not the size of the, it's exactly, yeah. It's not the followers. It's really about the conversations and the connections that you're building. And I think that's a really big piece as well. Like most of the followers, like even on Instagram, right? Like when people follow me, I reach out. I go into your DMs. Hey, this is what I do. Is there any way that I could further support? Is there any way that I could further support you and what you're doing on your journey? That's it. You ain't got to go in and it's like, hey, this is what I have available. No, that's also the wrong move to make. I don't go asking for anything. I always come giving value, and people then come. And because I gave them a little something, it's sales strategies, right? Because I gave them a little something, now they want to return the favor. Now it's like, okay, they might go to my website. Now they're diving into the content, and they will more likely purchase my products because I've made a genuine connection.
So I can't end this interview without talking to you about owning rental properties, because I was first turned on to you, not by the branding stuff. I was watching a tiny house video, and then yours came up next. And I'm looking at here going like, wow. And by the way, people, go watch the video, and I'm going to put it in the show notes so you can check out that. It looks amazing, people. It looks amazing. How did you get turned on to actually getting rental properties, not for the tenant that normally I think people think of, I'm going to buy a duplex, I'm going to buy this apartment building, or I'm going to buy this house and I'm going to put some renters in or whatever. But you are like Airbnb, right? When I saw this, I was like, what? Like, how did this happen?
So back when the Super Bowl came to Atlanta, is like that real time when I really started getting into Airbnb. There were a lot of friends that I had around the city, just people I was talking to, that it's like, a large event comes to your city, people are going to be talking about Airbnb likely. So everybody was talking about, you know what? Like, I think I'm just about to go back to my parents' house and sleep there the weekend. I'm renting my place out. Because I then got on the platform and I'm like, wait, these people are charging $400-500 a night. What? And people are paying? Not even that you're charging it, but people are actually paying you this. That is when I then said, okay, I'm gonna take my shot at it. And me taking my shot at it was listing my 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment on Airbnb. So I packed up my stuff. I didn't completely pack it up. Like, stuff was in the closet. They didn't get access to the closet. And I then slept on my friends' couches. And that was my initial introduction to Airbnb. So when Super Bowl happened, I was able to make a really good grip of money. I was able to cover my own rent for my apartment. I said, you know what? This is something that I need to tap into a little more. But I would not say that I said that immediately, or like I didn't say that I need to tap into it on a larger scale immediately. I was fine with just my apartment, because for me, starting out, it wasn't a matter of wanting to make $50,000-$100,000 a year. It was really just a matter, I just want to live free. I just don't want to pay no bills. That's it. So then when I actually got started and I started listing my apartment, and it became like a thing to where the weekend was coming. Okay, I'm listing my apartment. Hey friends, can I stay with you? And that was really it. And it got to a point where the apartment complex actually sent out like a mass email to everybody, because I guess a lot of apartment complexes did it because they caught wind of people Airbnb their apartment during Super Bowl, and most people kept doing it because they realized how much money was there. So they sent a email to everyone, all of the residents within that complex, just saying Airbnb is prohibited, or that I believe I remember saying that like subleasing is prohibited, including Airbnb, which is a important differentiator. But however, they pretty much were like, they shut it down. They were just like, yeah, like, if we find your listing on there, you will be evicted. Like, there will be a fee and you will be evicted. You are not supposed to be doing this. So then at that point, I said, you know what? I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here because I want to stay within this business and keep making this money and not paying bills. So I then started the process of searching for a house, or the home buying process. Now, when I initially moved to Atlanta, I think it's important to note that my mom was already really encouraging me to buy a house. She said, do not go down there paying that high rent. And I went down there and I was paying that high rent and I got tired of it. So she was right. So I started that home buying process. So the Super Bowl came to Atlanta February of 2019, 2019, I believe. And then I started that home buying process pretty much like in June or July. So the same thing that I said to you, I started doing my research. I attended like some real estate fairs, not a career fair, but like they're for real estate. And they helped me meet a ton of realtors just around the Atlanta area, in addition to just like lenders and just resources, right? Like starting to really figure out and sift through that information related to, because I'm sure you all have heard about, oh, you do a first-time home buyers program, do FHA, 3.5% down. Like, what does all of that mean? So I really started to do my research on what all of that meant. And then I acquired that property October of 2019. And from there, it was really just a matter of everything scaled into the next. So the money that I made from renting my 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment, I then used as the down payment on my house. When I started renting the house out, I then used that money that I was making on the house to begin building the tiny house. And even furthermore, the money that I was making to get the other property and acquire that as well. So I have a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath unit in South Atlanta, a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom unit in South Atlanta. And then I have the tiny house as well. And I'm expanding back into apartments, specifically in the Airbnb industry. So, I mean, it's really like, it was just a flow. It really flowed into the next. Like, for me, I'm not a big spender as well. So, and I say that it's important that I say that because many people will start to see the numbers related to, like, they'll start to see the earnings related to anything, right? Like, once you really start catching some wind with anything, it's easy to be like, okay, treat myself. I earned it. Let me treat myself. And I wasn't doing that. Like, I really held out for a very long time. And I've even said before, it's like, from October 2019, December, because December is when I finished furnishing it. From December 2019 to March of this year, for the most part, I was living out of a suitcase. Like, I did not have a place to call my own because my homes were being rented out. Now, during that short stint where like the global pandemic hit, March, it was about March and April of 2020, I was in the house. But for the most part, I have been living out of my suitcases, living out of my closets. All of my stuff, for the most part, was located like in the closets of my units. And I was just like, I started renting a room out in another house with someone else. And I really made some sacrifices in order for me to continue scaling the business. So it was that temporary, like, discomfort, right? That temporary discomfort for that long term, like, okay, the reward at the
Mm. People, you know, I get excited
end.
about that. I get, oh, that's that next level coin. I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. I mean, because I am already frugal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just stack money.
Yeah.
And so oh man, I'm serious. I want a 65-inch TV so badly. You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm too cheap to go get one.
Look, that's why you create some type of offer that pays for what you want. Like
But
anytime I want something new,
it's not gonna matter. I'm seriously, I'm not gonna disclose what I got in the bank, but I'm good with I ain't got no problems getting the TV.
it
But the price of it, just for me to say,
yeah.
ooh, do I because I've signed 2 contracts coming
Mm-hmm.
up next month. Guess what I'm doing with that money? They're going straight into the bank. I can't even see
But
myself spending it because I'm like, I'm just
you
holding on.
can, and it's a mindset, and I feel like that is a mindset piece, right? And I'm not even going to attach it to like our community, but just a mindset piece that a lot of people face in general of when you, especially when you've grown up, or you may have, I don't know how you grew up, but at least for me, I'm very frugal as well. And based on how I grew up, it is because of how I grew up. Like we weren't getting the latest J's and the newest shoes. It's like we're gonna go down to the discount rack, the clearance rack. We might go to the Goodwill, and we're gonna go and get that. So it took me a very long time, especially once I started. Like a lot of people don't talk about that mindset shift, or just like that shift that takes place in general when you go from not having much to having a lot, and like the difference in it. But I do find that it is like the mindset of it, of it's not a matter of like I just need to keep saving and saving and saving. And I find that it's typically like, I don't want to say a trauma response, but like it's like because you were operating in survival mode for so long, you thought that, okay, I can't spend this, let me save it because I don't know what bill about to come, what's gonna happen, I might lose this. Like you just never know. So then it became a survival mode of like, I'm gonna just keep saving and saving and not actually spending on myself. And like I said, I was doing the same thing, and it became a real problem. Like my friends would look at me like, Precious. My mama even was like, why are you being so cheap? You make really good money. Like, treat yourself. And it was absolutely ridiculous. Like it was so crazy, y'all. Like when I tell you, I was so cheap. My on campus when I was in college, my university had like a food pantry. And I didn't necessarily need the food pantry, but my mama would get in my butt. She's like, wow, you don't need that. Like, why are you being so cheap? You have the money to go buy your own food. I'm like, but it's free. Like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And the thing is, I don't even like, I'm not like Scrooge going to check my bank account, just going,
Mhm.
what it looking like right now? What's it looking like right now? I don't even do that. But
Yeah.
I just one of my things is, one of my fears, because I've been broke before,
Yeah.
is and my wife for my money, right? Is I don't want to have it, I don't want to need it and not have it.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so I stack it. And plus my money mindset now is about, just because your money moves up doesn't mean your lifestyle
Yeah.
need to do the same, right? Because there are
Mhm.
doctors and lawyers and folks out there who making 7 figures and they live in check to check
Mhm.
because they just spending all the time.
It's the financial literacy piece. Like I tell people all of the time, what like the piece that I really hate is when there's this constant encouragement, especially with those who have already expressed maybe that like they're struggling financially or they don't have enough. There's this constant encouragement. Well, just save more. Just save more. Save, put some money aside. If these people are already struggling financially, right? They likely do not have enough money to pay their bills. What makes you think they have enough money to set aside to save? They don't. You're then going to be cutting back and then depriving yourself of stuff that you already need because you're probably not even living a life of luxury in the first place. So saving isn't going to do anything. Saving is not going to make you rich, right? Saving is not going to make you wealthy. I will say that. It can make you rich. It's not going to make you wealthy. What's going to make you wealthy is you need to make more money.
Yes.
That's the answer. You need to make more money. That's it. Saving is not going to get you there. It's not like, oh, I'm going to keep saving. By the time I'm 60, I'm going to have this much. And yeah, I'm excited to get to that. The fact that we delay the gratification like that so much, yet expect so many other things instantaneously. Like we expect gratification instantaneously in so many other areas, but we're willing to, right? We're willing to wait and hold off for that retirement. We're willing to wait and hold off until we're 60. For me, that's a problem. For me, I have a major problem with that. So I'm not the person who is going to tell you to like save. No, make more money. The money's out there.
I hear. I'm doing both. That's how I'm doing.
Absolutely. No. This for the people. Make more money. If you are somebody who you like, I'm saving. Make more money because you're gonna continue. You're gonna just keep saving.
Yes. Hey, I believe in them streams. I love it, y'all. I'm telling you, and I got hooked because my first consulting gig was not on purpose. I literally was at a conference and an assistant superintendent approached me and say, "Hey, do you do this kind of stuff for pay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he showed up to one of my sessions and I was like, "Yo, is this like a job interview or something?" He was like, "Yeah." And after the session, he said, I will get in contact with you. And my first contract I signed, when I got that thing, I did 7 hours of work and I made almost what I make a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, 7 hours?
Yep.
Just doing stuff that I do every day at
anyway.
work anyway. I'm like,
you do it anyway. People are already asking you anyway.
I said, well, I was after that, I was like, more please.
Yeah.
Because to be able to do it and have a great time doing it and sharing with other educators and getting them excited about using technology in the classroom. And at the same time, seeing the coins come in, I was like, I'm done. I'm hooked.
That's the true piece of getting paid to do what you love.
I said, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Before we go, I want to talk to you and about your BBA,
mm-hmm.
right? Because I have educators who they are at the next level of what they're doing. I know some folk. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, look, I'm saying, brother, how you making $20,000 like that? I'm like, I ain't had $20,000 for the day. I'm like, how you doing that right now?
Look,
so, for those who are climbing and they're getting ready to, and they want to take that next step, tell them about the BBA and how they can work with you.
Absolutely. So the BBA program is my Building Brand Authority program. It is a comprehensive 8-week hands-on coaching program that pretty much takes you through the process of, number one, streamlining your brand. And what I mean by streamlining your brand is, let's say that I have this job, right? But I feel like it's not necessarily really tapping into my passion. Like I go to this job, but then I feel like I have this separate identity when I leave. Like I may be doing something on the side, or like they don't know what I'm doing, anything like that, where you feel like you have siloed identities. We streamline that brand, work to expand your influence. So this means that you already have a bit of influence, expand your influence, and then position you as an authority or an expert within your industry so that you can gain inbound opportunities. And what I mean by inbound opportunities are these next levels that, like the next levels that Will is talking about, right? So speaking engagements, getting paid top dollar to just talk to people about what you're already doing. That is what we work to create within the BBA program. So it's an 8-week program to where we specifically deliver that via the LinkedIn platform. Many people I know have like you either really love LinkedIn or you really hate it. It just is what it is, but it is a powerful platform. And just to show you just how powerful it is, right? For most of you, you are educators. You likely have a LinkedIn anyway. If you Google your name, LinkedIn is likely within the top 3 search results. LinkedIn is a very credible social platform. People aren't necessarily going to first click on Instagram or Facebook. If they're looking to book you for something professional, they're going to look at your LinkedIn. And if your LinkedIn is not actively selling you, or then even furthermore, if you are not active on LinkedIn delivering value, then that is going to hurt your brand in the long run. So that is why we focus specifically on LinkedIn and then work on expanding that to other areas on how can you continue delivering the value of your brand via content on other platforms too. So within that program, we pretty much work together 8 weeks, fairly intense, but we really uncover, like I said, streamline that brand to identify what's the overlap between your passion and your profession, and how can you, I guess, present that brand in a way that is understandable and clear to your audience. We identify who that audience is, so who can best, I guess, learn from your story, learn from what you have, what you've learned, your expertise. And then even furthermore, we work on actually developing how you create content. So helping you to better create content, and then even furthermore, more easily create content using those strategies that we were talking about earlier within the show, which is that macro to micro strategy.
Thank you, Precious, for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome, people. I'm telling you, boy, these gems was dropped today, just iced out, people. She gave it to you. I'm telling you, this episode is going out tomorrow, people. It's going out tomorrow. I'm so excited about it. And I'm up here involved in the conversation. So I can't wait for y'all to listen
to hear it.
to this and be inspired and hear this information so you can go out there and make that coin. So wow. Thanks again. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. And absolutely, like if anyone has any questions, you want to talk more about branding, you want to talk more about Airbnb, you are interested in having me speak, you can find all of that information on my website. That's just www.preciouscprice.com. You can find the brand table at the brand table on social media platforms. I am at Precious C Price everywhere. So that's the .com, that's the social media handles and all of that. And if you're more so interested in that tiny house journey and the Airbnb money type of platform, you can find Airbnb money, just Airbnb money on Instagram, and just search the hashtags all over, hashtag Airbnb money.
Awesome. And there'll be show notes for you to be able to find that there. So people, you know how I do this. This podcast episode is going to be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, and Spotify, as well as Audible. I need you to subscribe. I need you to comment, give me some ratings. Yes, I'm trying to be found. And I do like the stars, but I'm trying to get Oprah on the show. And I want her to know that I'm doing big things around. I'm telling you, when Oprah come on, that's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's over for y'all.
Yeah, you can't tell me nothing after that. I mean, going to my job, be like, I'm out. I got Oprah. I'm next level now. I'm next level. So I'm excited. Okay, look, I'm getting off track. Now, people, thanks. I like to thank my guest again, Precious C Price, for coming on and dropping so many gems. And I'd like to thank you again for checking out another episode of the Dr. Will Show. As always, people, invest in you, EDU. Peace.
Peace.